The end of an illusion. In the summer of 1914, the world stood at the peak of its confidence. Empires stretched across continents. Industry roared. Science promised progress. Leaders believed war would be short, controlled, even glorious. They were wrong. What followed was not just a war but a catastrophe. A conflict so brutal, so destructive, that it erased empires, traumatized a generation, and rewrote the rules of human violence. This was World War I, and it did not end war. It prepared the world for something far worse. Chapter 1. The world before the storm, before 1914. Europe was ruled by empires, not nations. The British Empire controlled nearly a quarter of the planet. Germany, newly unified, was rising fast, industrial, confident, aggressive. The Austro-Hungarian Empire ruled dozens of ethnic groups under one fragile crown. The Ottoman Empire, once mighty, was slowly collapsing, and Russia, vast and unstable, struggled to modernize. On the surface, the world seemed stable. Beneath it, tensions were building. Factories churned out steel, ships, and weapons. Railways could move millions of soldiers in days. Newspapers glorified war as heroic and necessary. Europe was armed. Europe was angry. Europe was waiting. Chapter 2. The four forces driving toward war. Historians often summarize the causes of World War I with one word: main. Militarism. Armies were no longer defensive. They were symbols of national pride. Germany expanded its army and navy. Britain responded with bigger battleships. France and Russia mobilized millions of men. War planning became obsession. Generals believed war was inevitable and preparation meant survival. Alliances. Europe split into armed camps. On one side, Britain, France, and Russia, the Allied powers. On the other, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and later the Ottoman Empire, the Central Powers. These alliances were meant to preserve peace. Instead, they guaranteed that a small conflict would explode into a global war. Imperialism. Empires competed for land, resources, and dominance. Africa and Asia were carved up with little regard for local people. Every colony gained meant prestige. Every loss meant humiliation. Rivalry hardened into hatred. Nationalism. People no longer identified with empires. They identified with nations. Especially dangerous was nationalism in the Balkans, where ethnic groups demanded independence. This region earned a deadly nickname: the powder keg of Europe. All it needed was a spark. Chapter 3. The assassination that ignited the world. June 28th, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, rode through the city streets. He represented imperial authority in a region full of resentment. Waiting in the crowd was Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Serbian nationalist. 2 gunshots rang out. Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were dead. At first, the world barely noticed, but behind closed doors, leaders began mobilizing. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Germany offered unconditional support. Russia mobilized to protect Serbia. France backed Russia. Germany declared war. Belgium was invaded. Britain entered the conflict. Within weeks, Europe was at war. By months, the world was... Chapter 4. War plans and false promises. Germany had a plan, the Schlieffen Plan. A lightning-fast invasion through Belgium to defeat France in 6 weeks. Then turn east to fight slow mobilizing Russia. France had planned 17 an aggressive attack into German territory. Both plans assumed speed. Both assumed courage would overcome bullets. They were catastrophically wrong. Machine guns shredded advancing troops. Artillery obliterated formations. Wheaton Mont's movement stopped. Soldiers dug in, and the war froze into trenches stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland. Chapter 5. Trench warfare. Life-in-hell trenches were not shelters. They were graves waiting to be filled. Mud swallowed boots. Rats fed on corpses. Disease spread unchecked. Soldiers lived inches from Dethevery. Second, attacks began with whistles. Men climbed ladders into gunfire. Most died before reaching the enemy line. New weapons changed warfare forever. Machine guns, poison gas, flamethrowers, tanks, submarines, poison gas, burned lungs, and blinded eyes. Masks arrived too late for many. The human mind could not cope. Shell shock haunted survivors. What we now call PTSD. This was not heroic war. This was industrialized slaughter. Chapter 6. A World at War. World War I spread far beyond Europe. The Ottoman Empire fought in the Middle East. Colonial troops from Africa and Asia were dragged into the conflict. Naval battles spanned oceans. In 1917, the United States entered the war angry over German submarine attacks. Fresh American troops tipped the balance. Germany, starving under blockade and exhausted, began to collapse. Chapter 7. The cost a lost generation when the guns finally fell silent in 1918. The world was unrecognizable. Over 20 million people were dead. Nearly 10 million soldiers killed. Millions more wounded, blinded, or broken. Entire villages disappeared. Families were destroyed. An entire generation was lost. The survivors returned home, changed forever. Chapter 8. The Fall of Empires. World War I destroyed the Old World. The German Empire collapsed. The Austro-Hungarian Empire disintegrated. The Ottoman Empire vanished. The Russian Empire felt replaced by revolution and communism. New nations were created, but borders were drawn carelessly. Peace was declared, but justice was not. Chapter 9. The Treaty of Versailles. A dangerous peace in 1919. World leaders met at Versailles. Germany was blamed entirely for the war. Its army was crippled. Its land taken. Its economy crushed by reparations. The German people felt humiliated. This was not reconciliation. This was revenge. One French leader famously warned, "This is not peace. It is a 20-year truce." He was right. Chapter 10. How World War I prepared the world for World War II. World War I did not resolve conflict. It precipit. Italiano. Total war became normal. Civilians became targets. Technology, advanced destruction, economies collapsed. Extremism thrived in Germany. Anger turned into nationalism. In Italy, fascism rose. In Japan, militarism expanded. The League of Nations failed to stop aggression. The world had learned how to fight, but not how to forgive. Conclusion: the war that never really ended. World War I was called the War to End All Wars. Instead, it became the opening act of the deadliest century in human history. The trenches were filled. The empires fell. The lessons were ignored. And just 20 years later, the world would burn again.